Okay, 3, 2, 1. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Joshua Kajas. I am a sophomore at St. John's University and I'm a TV film major.
Hi, hello. My name is Mitsu Tokumi Shibata. I'm teaching Japanese here and also I'm a doctorate student here in history. I have been in the US for 10 years. I'm 120% Japanese.
Okay.
I'm Christy DeGennaro. I'm 19 and currently I'm an education major at St. John's.
Hi, my name is Tony DeGennaro. I guess the story starts with my grandfather. He spent 6 years living in the southernmost city of Japan, Okinawa. In that time, he developed a strong interest in the country, its people, its culture, etc. Now, 60 years later, I speak the language, have many friends, and have strong ties to the country itself. According to a 2002 global study, 12% of Japanese claim to have a foreign friend, and 6% had a foreign relative. But many outsiders still believe Japanese to be very closed and sometimes hostily racist toward foreigners, otherwise called gaikokujin. But rather than me answer all of these questions alone, I'll let my friends, family, and you answer them instead.
First of all, if we hear the word foreigners or foreign culture, gaikokujin or gaikokubunka, we kind of imagine like Caucasian or African people only.
I think that it depends on where you, like what you are and how you go into there. Like if I were to go to Japan right now, I'm not sure if they would be too accepting of me.
When we hear foreigners, foreign culture, we imagine like American things, I guess, like then we have to, include, like some other Asian things, like East Asian or South Asian, like Indian things. Actually, there are more like Chinese people and Korean people in Japan over than American people or European people or African people. We kind of imagine, we kind of think like, Chinese manners and Korean manners here actually. But when we hear foreigner, when we imagine like American things, European things, or Latin American things, we have kind of good, imagination, like impressions, things like little things, like food, music, movies. But like actual people, like foreigners, like Chinese, Korean, we imagine bad behavior.
Well, I actually managed to meet some Japanese students that came to St. John's. Asked us to come meet the students like a week before they left. So we got to meet them and we spent some time with them for a couple of hours. Some of them were a little more, reserved than others. They didn't really want to really speak in English maybe because they came to the U.S. I think to practice their English.
That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, of course. Kind of, we are just one, how can I say, race. When we see any other like races, like like Caucasian, African, or South, like Indian, the kind of thing. When we see them, like they're different from us. What are they doing? How can we, have communication with them?
I think the United States is more racist and discriminatory, but I guess maybe in Japan, the thing that people see all the time is like just the Japanese people. They don't see like Americans and stuff like that. But I think it all depends on just what race you actually are.
We don't really exactly, consider bigger foreigners the same as Japanese, something like that.
I wouldn't say that they didn't want to. I wouldn't say that the Japanese students that I met didn't want to speak to me because I wasn't Japanese, but more so that I didn't have a great knowledge of the language, and maybe that made me seem a little inferior in some ways.
Japanese people say thank you and sorry more and more than Americans.
I believe an American person is at least a New Yorker. I mean, I believe they're a little more, I guess you could say a little more abrasive, a little more selfish.
And also here, the Americans, kind of, it's easy to talk to, to start to speak to, talk to Americans. But we don't really do that. We are kind of, we call Taijin Kyofusho. We are kind of afraid to speak to acquaintances, strangers. First of all, these Japanese creators, authors don't know about foreign things so much. Of course, the familiar things to them are Japanese things, Japanese culture, Japanese, of course, language, manners, food. So when you write, or create or something, they are thinking in our Japanese ways. So that's why they don't really think about, oh, maybe Americans are interested in like this, or maybe Africans are interested in like that.
I mean, I can say from my perspective that I think traditional Japanese culture is probably some of the more interesting parts of the Japanese culture in general. Because
we just think about Japanese things in Japanese cultures.
I think for a foreigner to live in Japan, already you're going to have the difficulty of learning the Japanese language.
Mostly, the biggest problem is language. Because we don't speak English, we don't speak Spanish, we don't speak French, we don't speak Chinese, we don't speak Namek. Do you know Namek? Do you say Namek in Dragon Ball?
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
We don't speak it.
You'll probably need at least some sort of knowledge of the culture because things are different. They have different rooms for the toilet and the bathtub. They have different rooms they have closets for shoes. You have to take off your shoes all over the place.
We are kind of, Japanese is, how can I say, one race, one ethnic. So in that sense, maybe, racial things.
So, after having all these questions answered, what's the final verdict? I think that the best way to describe my answer would be, no country is the sum of its people. It's the sum of its people on a personal level. And rather than just generalizing how one country may act sometimes, I think you need to meet people on a personal basis and see exactly how it is they treat people. まずは今夜インタビューをありがとうございます。
どうもありがとう。
7つ、質問がありますけど、ちょっと難しいでごめんなさい。私の悪い日本語にごめんなさい。
いや、問題ない。大丈夫ですね。
そして、私、英語で、質問します。でも、あなた、日本語で答えてもいいです。
じゃあ全部日本語で答えますね。
それでは始まりましょう。